So inshallah, like the beauty of these sessions is that first of all, like it's a pretty good miracle that we're able to end on time. Normally in our events we don't end on time, so we're ending on time today. We're going to be good Muslims. We have about 30-40 minutes left, and in these 40 minutes, it's nice to enjoy sessions, but it's also nice to enjoy the conversations that these scholars would have on such a topic. And if you have questions, you can go ahead and ask. But if you don't have questions, it's fine. You can ask whatever you want within the niche of these topics that we spoke of, right? However, I'd like to get our conversation, our panel started off with a few questions that I find to be fairly interesting, especially for people that are sitting on this panel. Amongst them is someone like yourself, Mufti Kamani, Sheikh Asif, yourself as well. We're going to do this first for half an hour, and then we'll take the questions from here as well. So someone like yourself, and Sheikh Asif, yourself too, your parents were your mother was a convert, right? You were born and raised in Elizabethtown. No one cares where that is because no one knows where that is. But in Kentucky, it's in America somewhere. Then you're raised in Chicago. Like you went to boarding school for years, which is something that's not relatable to everyone. But just the idea of where did you find the fortitude and strength to, just like how it is strange today to be Muslim, it was equally strange back then as well. So even though you're fairly young, you're only 23 years old, plus 20 years, right? I mean, very old now. What did you find that gave you and your brother the strength to do what you're doing, despite the fact that you didn't come from a family that it was a norm to become a scholar and or to do anything of this nature?
So every time Sheikh Abdul Wahab says something, I have to hold my breath. Because every compliment can tear me apart in the next part of the sentence. Studying Islam, to be very honest, when it started off, wasn't really my decision. It was a dream that my parents had. And my father wasn't necessarily a scholar. I think the first time he read the Quran in Arabic for the first time in his life from beginning to end was quite recent, a few years ago. And that wasn't necessarily due to negligence. It was more a result of just life. He left Pakistan at a very young age, got here in America, got busy with the grind. The whole goal was bring your sisters in one at a time, bring your brothers in one at a time. So for those of you that are familiar with that sort of a grind, it's just life. You don't have the opportunity to take a breather in between. And I saw him put his life into this. So then we were in Elizabethtown, Kentucky. Growing up, we didn't have a masjid, like many of you might be familiar with that concept, like in the 90s, masajid didn't exist everywhere. We used to pray salah in the Fort Knox Army base. Ironically, that's where we went for Jummah salah every Friday, listening to A is for Allah, nothing but Allah. Ba is the beginning of Bismillah. Literally, that was the same thing my dad put on every Friday. He probably picked it up from Isna or something. And on the way to Jummah, we listened to that every Friday, and then we went in for Friday, had to check in with our IDs and go into the American Army base. And then it was the height of the Iraq War. So they were the first one. Kuwait and Iraq, the first one, not the second one. So which is so sad that I had to say that. But so there were soldiers in training there, so we'd pray salah with them, and then we'd go back. One particular year, there was an imam that came from out of the country to lead Tarawih prayer. And this was the first time I saw a Hafid of the Quran in my life. I didn't know that was a thing. Like, what? This guy's memorized the whole Quran? It was this young, righteous man. He was still a student. I mean, he had probably just graduated or was graduating. What I saw in this young man was that he was probably 18, 19 years old at the time. But he would complete the entire recitation of the Quran, if not every day, every 2 days. I had never seen this. I mean, this to me in Kentucky, this was so foreign. He would sit there, and then when he would do khatam of the Quran, he would call my mom and say, send your kids over, I'm about to do khatam, we'll do dua together. So we'd go to his little room, and we'd sit down, and at the end of it, he would have this small little bottle. For those of you that are desi, this is going to be a solid throwback right here. he had a small bottle of gulkan. Do any of you know what gulkan is? It's this rose petal paste they use to make sweet bun. So if you ever had sweet bun, that rose petally sweet taste they have, it's from something called gulkan. If you go to like the desi store, you'll see it. So he'd give us a small spoon of that and we'd have it. It's so sweet. Anyway, so he was probably the first person that really inspired me to study the deen in a meaningful way, outside of my father's desire for us to study. We didn't have madaris in America. There were no institutions here at that time. And the institutions that existed were really in their earlier days. My father didn't know what to do, so he asked some family members, where should I send my kids? And one of them said, send them to Pakistan. That was a horrible experience. Oh my God. Then he called another one of his relatives and said, where do I send them now? They said, send them to India this time. Oh my God. It was rough. Let me tell you guys that. And then at the end of that one, I said to my dad, I'll continue doing this on the condition that it has to be in a country where everyone speaks the same language as me. It has to be, everyone needs to be English speaking. I can't communicate with these teachers. I don't know it. The most Urdu that I know is what I saw in Amitabh Bachchan movies growing up. And that was all, instead of khab, I was saying sapna, and everyone's laughing at me. Look at you, moron, you're speaking Hindi. Sapna is not an Urdu word, it's a Hindi word. No, Mana Bajat, he actually laughed at me in class because of that once. Anyway, that's another story. So in those earlier years, if I'm really vulnerable and honest with you, they were not enjoyable at all. And I actually asked myself again and again, why in Allah's beautiful earth am I doing this? I didn't know. I think it all changed when I finally made it to the United Kingdom. There was a prominent Islamic school there in Manchester where I met Mufti Asif, and we were colleagues for so many years there. We were childhood friends in the same grade. And oh, you started it. This is happening. Yeah. Yeah, no, Mufti Abdul Wahab is not left out. He's a part of the present. But Mufti Asif is a childhood friend. We grew up together. So that when I was in England, I think there was a whole new awakening. Because the teachers there were very compassionate. They were loving, they were kind, they were mentoring. They treated us like family. And somewhere around 14, 15 years of age is when it all clicked that I want to be doing this. So I know that was a long-winded answer, but I think I went down that whole path of explaining things primarily to show that sometimes inspiration will come in the least expected places, like that guy coming for Taraweeh, by the way. That sheikh is someone that I call every month till today. Till today, that same sheikh, I call him all the time. He's one of my people to go to. When I'm confused and I don't know what to do, what's next, you know, everyone has someone they go to. He's my secret weapon. I usually call him when I say, Sheikh, I need your du'as, and Sheikh, you are an inspiration to me. Please guide me in this matter. And then the second part of it was that sometimes you do something that doesn't make sense, but just because it doesn't make sense to you, don't stop it. Just keep pushing forward. If you're sincere, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will open that path for you. So there was a part of my life, I really didn't know why I was doing it. I was really young. It was someone else's vision I was living off of. But then, alhamdulillah, after meeting some other scholars in life, things really opened up and my perspective changed. Allah knows best.
My story is a little different, I would say. You know, since Mufti Hussain talked about childhood, it kind of brought memories back. For me, I would say it was a mistake. Honestly, it was a mistake. I wasn't supposed to be a hafiz, an alim, a mufti. As a matter of fact, when I say mistake, I truly mean it, because my parents, who have no background in Islamic knowledge, or as you know, when you go back all the way to our generation, our family, the closest we had for a person to be religious was a mu'adhin. I don't know, like 3 generations ago, that was the closest. So one day my father asked my brother, hey, you want to become hafiz? My brother excited, yeah, you know, I'll do it, I'll go study. And my dad decided to pick UK for all the weird reasons. I don't know why. UK is not the best place on earth. And 2 weeks before he's departing for school, he said, "No, I'm not going to do it." And they asked me, they looked at me like, "Hey, are you going to do it?" And in my mind, 14 years old in 8th grade, I'm like, yeah, I'm going to go chill for a year. I'm going to come back. This is great. Like 1 year vacation, 14 years old, middle of nowhere. Why not? My mind, my expectation was, this is going to be a good experience. A young teenage guy, gonna have a good time, gonna party. Didn't happen. Went all the way there, met Sheikh. Alhamdulillah, met him. And it's funny that one day I was sitting with our good friend Sheikh Suleiman Habibi and Abdurrahman Sayyid, and this is the first couple of weeks. I'm like dying to leave because I'm like, I don't belong here. This is not my place. And I sat down with these two, senior scholars that were studying at that time, and they said to me, "You're becoming Hafid, inshallah." Nah, I'm not here for that. What are you talking about? And they're like, no, you're becoming Hafid. And at this point, I don't even know how to read Alif and Ba. Like, it's not even common. I didn't know how to read Quran. They're like, "You're becoming Hafid. Say inshallah." I was like, I'm not going to say inshallah. It's not going to happen. No, say inshallah. No. They're like, no, it's just say inshallah. Okay, inshallah. And then the Sheikh said, "You're becoming alim. Say inshallah." No, bro, calm down. 7 years, not going to happen. It's just say inshallah. I said, no, I'm not going to say it. You can't leave the room until you say inshallah. I said, okay, fine, inshallah. Then he thought he was getting excited. He's like, "You're becoming a Mufti. Say inshallah." No, bro, like calm down. And subhanallah, the rest was history. Met Mufti Hussain, met good friends, met our Sheikh, or Yusuf Mutala, rahimahullah. And just, that really just inspired us. And the rest was history. We just changed our life from that moment on.
Round of applause for the Mashayikh. By the way, like just as a disclaimer, not everyone needs to become a scholar. Not everyone needs to become a hafid. None of our parents are scholars or hafid, and I would say without a shadow of a doubt that my parents are more impactful than all of us brothers combined. Not being ulama, so you can impact deen in so many ways. It's not like a one size fits all. In a hospital, you need the physician, and you need the nurse, and you need the PA, and you need the resident, and you need the MA. All of them together allow the patient to be treated. Indeed, we need everyone, as long as we're focused on the same thing, right? So it's important to recognize that not everyone needs to become a scholar. If everyone becomes a scholar, then you got to take all of our jobs. It's not gonna be fun, right? But you definitely need to bring. We need to make a pursuit to serve Deen, because service of Deen is great. But nonetheless, we will move ahead, inshallah ta'ala. By the way, the journey for us, brothers, started because of our parents cultivated an environment in our house. As parents, cultivate an environment in your home. Before we sleep, recite a hadith with your family. Pray one salat together with your family. These are things that inspired us. Another thing that inspired us is that our parents would always serve scholars, would always serve people of scholarship. Don't ever think that we are not in need of someone's du'as. Whenever we ask our mother, "What do you think did it for us, brothers?" Not that we're doing anything special. She would say, "Kisi nek bande ki dua lagi hai." Some pious person made dua for you, and I guess it hit close to the target. So there's no such thing. How the idea of having elders come and ask for dua. Mufti Kamani is an elder here. Ask her to make dua for your kids, and so on and so forth. Right. Another, a question that's coming up is quite common. I was also going to ask this question as well. Is it's one to be judged by non-Muslims, right? But how do you deal with feeling judged by Muslims? And I feel like that is more important for us to deal with, even being judged by non-Muslims. And trust me, this is always being judged, right? So, and you don't have to dress like this at all. Please don't, right? Don't try. It's not important for anyone to dress in a certain way per se. But being judged by Muslims is always harder. I've been taken off a flight because of dressing the way that I dress, but I've also been judged in a Muslim gathering because of what I look like. That's always going to hurt more. So how do we deal with that? And is there a way that you can give us some advice for that?
Jazakallah khair, Sheikh, for the awesome question. But before I answer that, I just wanted to take a moment and if you guys are comfortable, you guys know who you are. You've talked to me throughout the night. If you are a non-Muslim that is in this gathering joining us today, would you mind raising your hand for us? Go ahead, guys, do it. We have one in the front row here, one at the back. Can we give them a big round of applause, folks? This brother right here joined us in Maghrib Salah today, which was awesome. He sat in a chair. He's like, man, I think people weren't happy I was sitting in that chair. We were so happy you were sitting in that chair. Everyone, one more for him. And the sister at the back, I forgot your name. Say it out for me if you don't mind. One more time. Palumi. Palumi, she came after Salah and she said, she asked me an amazing question. You know, oh, you Muslims say that Christ was not crucified, but as Christians, we believe he was. How do you reconcile between the two different historical narratives? And we had a really good conversation. So I'm going to ask the crowd to once again give us a round of applause for Palumi being here, being courageous, being confident, and asking that amazing question. And I want you both to know that myself, the scholars sitting here, and everyone in this congregation, we're going to pray for you guys. That Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give you the best in your life, whatever's written for you. Ameen, everyone? Thank you, guys. Okay, so the question. Being judged isn't fun. We all agree on that? Yeah? Oh, you guys, brace yourself. Sometimes it's necessary. Sometimes knowing that other people haven't, I know this is not the popular statement. I'll come back to balance. I promise I will. But just let me make you a little uncomfortable for 30 seconds. It's important to know that your actions, I know the context of this question was a little different, but I'm just going to take it to a whole different area and then come back to maybe your more familiar place. It's important to know that people have a right to develop opinions on things you say and do if they fall on either side of an objective truth. Subjective opinions we should hold back on. So for example, someone chooses to wear purple over red, which one's right, which one's wrong, there really isn't an answer there, there's no need for me to hold an opinion there. But on the other hand, if one person slaps another person, if they harm another person, that's an objective wrong. And if it's an objective wrong, it is appropriate for you to accept that another person has a right to hold an opinion on me because I did something wrong. This is actually the first step to accountability. It creates a balance in society and is actually a fundamental part of defining the Arabic word haya. The Arabic word haya, which we commonly translate in English as modesty, shame. If you're to look at the Arabic definition of haya, the ulama, they say it is to leave an act that is madmoom, a disliked, an act out of fear of, and then stop right there. To leave an undesirable act out of fear of, and then what do we say? Stop. Why I stop there is because now this can go in any way. Out of fear of culture, so now there's a different type of haya there. Out of fear of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, there's another haya that comes out of this. Out of fear of my honor being tarnished, there's a different haya that comes out of there. So sometimes a person may have cultural modesty, but it doesn't necessarily result in religious modesty. Religious modesty is where a person avoids doing something wrong out of fear of being accountable with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The muhaddithun, scholars of hadith, literally what they would do when someone would narrate hadith is they would verify that person's character and their integrity and literally pass judgment on them. You guys understand this? That this person objectively did something wrong. This person objectively, because truth in our culture, in Islam, is objective, it's not subjective. There is a right and then there's a wrong. So now, That's the first thing I wanted to say, because we have to be a little bit more comfortable. If I give a khutbah and I say something wrong, I need to be comfortable with someone coming to me later on and calling me out on it. As an imam, I need to be comfortable with that. I also need to be okay with knowing that if I say something, I will be judged on it, because that's the reality of the world that we live in. But on the other hand, there is this other aspect of the people that are doing that judging. When you're looking at other people, cut them some slack. You don't need to have an opinion about everything. We are a family, not news reporters. When someone says someone did something, someone said something, there's no need for you to jump onto it. إن جاءكم فاسق بنبأ فتبينوا. We are an ummah of فتبينوا. That we clarify things, we understand things. And even if a person at the end of all of it, even if they did something objectively wrong, it's important for me to know that that act of theirs may have a value of right or wrong to it, but that doesn't necessarily need to translate into the moral value of the individual. Because that individual, like all of us, like me, like Mufti Saab here and Mufti Saab here, is on a journey of growth. If we are buried within people's judgments, we stand no chance at being the true versions of ourselves. Everyone needs support. Everyone needs help. And yes, it makes sense that from the outside, from a non-Muslim passing judgment on you because of the way you dress, or maybe the way you pray, it's tough. And yes, it's true that when your fellow Muslims kind of cut your feet out from under you, it hurts a little more. There's a famous anecdote that they say copper and gold were having a conversation with one another. And gold said to steel, not copper. Gold said to steel, why is it that when the guy hits you with a hammer, you make so much noise? You ever seen a hammer hit gold? Have you ever seen that? It makes no sound. But if you take the hammer and hit steel, it makes a big bang. So the gold said to the steel that, why do you make so much noise when he hits you with the hammer? So steel said, when your own hit you, it hurts more. You guys understand that? When your own hit you, it hurts a little more, right? Because that's the nature of life, that sometimes when your own tabbat yada abi lahabin wa tab, when your own hit you, it hurts a little more. So how do you deal with it? I would say 2-3 things. Number one, continue being the best version of yourself and learn to silence the noise. That right there is your greatest asset. Be open to criticism, but don't let people's criticism drown your confidence. You have to have that confidence in you to keep pushing forward. The second thing that I would say is that if someone's giving you a hard time, go and have a candid conversation with them. Talk to them. Sometimes people just need to get the smackdown before they chill out a little bit. You just gotta go and tell them, buddy, stop it. All right, Jake? You just gotta go and say it to him. Hey, calm down, buddy. No one asked for your opinion. I'm very happy the way I am. You don't need to pass judgment on my marriage. You don't need to pass judgment on my stuff right there. And I would say lastly, the third thing, and I apologize for the long-winded answer, but the third thing that I would say is surround yourself by people who support you. If you notice there are haters in your life, if you know there are haters, like judging could be a sense of, it could be compassionate too, but it could be just a result of just straight up raw hate. If you're surrounded by haters in your life, just get rid of them. The sooner you do that, the happier you are, the longer you live. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala accept.
Okay, we're just gonna
Ask the next question on the Sheikh, because he's just following them all to me. Okay. There are 2 questions here. It seems like they're both regarding a narration of Bilal radiallahu anhu. Okay, I'll ask that question first. This guy. Sheikh, you mentioned the hadith about the footsteps of Bilal radiallahu anhu. You mentioned the good deed he did was forgive people every night. Is that not a different hadith? Perhaps you mixed the 2 hadith. Salam. I thought the narration of Bilal radiallahu anhu was that he would pray 2 rak'ahs of nafil every time he did wudu, right? So the question I think here is, there was a narration that the Sheikh shared, and we're trying to understand the context of it, and if there are multiple narrations here at play, or what the true incident was. So with that, I'm assuming that this is a question directly with the Wahab. I'm going to pass it on to you.
There's two questions that came about two different narrations. The Bilal al-Anhu one is both. There's a narration about the wudu in the 2 raka'ah, and there's a narration about him forgiving everyone because of the fact of what was done to him in Makkah, that he would forgive those people in Makkah. Second narration is about Abu Jahl coming and saying, Abu Jahl and Umayyah ibn Khalaf, the leaders of Makkah, that we will become Muslim if you allow us to have reserved seating, right? And if you allow us to come at a different time. That narration is independent of the other narration of Lakum Dinukum Waliya Din, which is completely different narration that said that 1 year you worship our God, 1 year we worship your God. So there's actually about 4 narrations from the Meccans are like this. There's another one too, where a tribe from the suburbs of Mecca came to the Prophet and said, Ya Rasulullah, we will support you with everything. We'll become Muslims, we'll give you all of our wealth, we'll give you everything we have. But we have one condition too. Our condition is that after you pass away, we become the leaders. Like we'll become the Khalifa, we'll become the leaders. And from all these different narrations, you understand that you have to come to Deen without a condition. Because Deen is the alpha in the relationship. We're not the alpha. Deen is the pilot. We're simply a passenger. The moment we mix being an alpha and a passenger, we start thinking that we're the pilot. We find out soon enough that we're not. So there's no such thing as coming to Deen with our own preconditions. Deen is already set. We have to confine any type of sensitivities that we have to the Deen of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So both of those narrations are found, and there's multiple narrations that talk about the Prophet ﷺ being asked to compromise Deen. Right? And another narration, the people of Thaqif came to him and said to him that we will worship, we will believe, and we will become Muslims with the condition that we will not give zakat. And we will not pray for Allah, we will not pray to Allah for 1 year. Like we're going to ease in. We're just going to internship level, just going to come in slowly, right? And number 3, we will not fight in jihad. So don't ask us to come forth. We're just going to do our thing. We're going to chill here, do our thing. Right? Number 4, we will not break our own idols. You have to break them for us. Right? That's a lot of conditions. And the Prophet actually thought about it. And Allah revealed, وَإِنْ كَادُوا لَيَفْتِنُونَكَ عَنِ الَّذِي أَوْحَيْنَا إِلَيْكَ لِتَفْتَرِي عَلَيْنَا غَيْرَهُ. They were very near that they were able to, it was very close that you were able to be convinced by them because of how bad you wanted them to become Muslims, right? We compromise personal interests, personal preferences for people to become Muslims. We don't compromise Allah's preference. What we're used to doing is compromise Deen, but not ourselves. If we're not comfortable, we won't be in that. We won't talk with that person, so on and so forth. So that's a quick answer for those things. And then we'll move ahead, inshallah. One of the questions that has come a few times, and I think it's definitely worth speaking about this question. That when a person's on their journey of trying to become a better person, a few times this question came. We struggle, we fall, we commit sins, and things happen on the journey. How do we balance the feeling of like wanting to do better, but at the same time feeling like we're continuously failing Allah and failing our system? Like, how do we balance that? As youngsters, I think all of us experience that to some degree, in some extent. Let Sheikh Asif answer that first, and Mufti Kamani, either or, inshallah.
It's okay to fail. You got to get comfortable with that. It's okay to mess up. Some of you who know me know that I am a very much committed jiu-jitsu fighter. I love Brazilian jiu-jitsu. I've been doing it for almost 12 years of my life. It's one of those things that I find my peace in. When I first started jiu-jitsu, I remember seeing this this beautiful statement on the wall, and it said, "Black belts are white belts that never give up." And that kind of taught me a lesson that it's okay to tap out. I was talking to a friend of mine who also recently started jiu-jitsu, actually my older brother. He started jiu-jitsu. I was going to keep it vague, but whatever. You did too? You started jiu-jitsu? Get out of here. No. So my brother started jiu-jitsu, my older brother. I've been telling him for years. I was like, man, you should start, you should start, you should start. You'll love it. It's great. There's a special joy when you choke someone. He didn't believe me until he choked someone. Then he's like, oh my God, this is so special. Feels really good. And then you get choked back, by the way. So it's just a part of it. Like you give you a take, right? This is what it is. So I was telling him the other day, I was saying, man, when you fight, you're too stiff. You're so defensive because you're afraid you're going to get submitted. That's no way to live life. You got to just be a little risky when you fight. You got to do something out of your comfort zone. You got to loosen up. You got to go in deep. Go for a flying armbar. It's okay. If you fall, you fall. If you land it, you land it. If you don't land it, the guy might take your back and get you in a bow and arrow. It just happens. You can't be afraid of failing. You can't be afraid of making mistakes because that fear will consume you. And the one thing that will deteriorate your health, your mental health, your spiritual health, and every form of health is living under irrational fears. You have to have confidence and understand that in everything you do in this world, there is what you control and there's what you don't control. Obsessing over what is out of your control will kill you. And this is probably one of the most important lessons that I've learned about parenting in my life. One of the most, if someone said to me, give me the most important lesson you've learned as a parent, it's that every interaction I have with my children, I have to realize there's an aspect of this interaction that is in my control, and there's an aspect of it that is out of my control. The part that's in my control, I need to focus a lot on that for optimal results. And the part that's out of my control, I have to accept it. If the kid said he's not going to go to sleep, there's nothing I can do in this universe to shut his eyes. Am I right? Am I right, parents? Yeah? Parents all clapping. Ready for my second example? Ready for my second example? If he says he's going to marry her, there's nothing in the world that I can do to stop that. It's the same principle, guys. I'm telling you straight. You know, over-controlling and assuming that you get to control people's decisions is a disease. It's literally a disease. I can persuade, that's in my control. So, for example, my son grows up and says, I want to marry that person. I can persuade. I can do my best at persuading. But I don't control whether he gets in the ship or not. Not standing in the ship and watching your son get swallowed by the waves by Nuh alayhi salam was his understanding. This is out of my control. You guys understand that? What's in my control is talking to you and telling you that this is your safe place. Get on the ship. That realization right there is probably the most profound lesson I learned in my life. So now when I'm at home and I have to get my kids to do something, I usually just tell them what the options are and what the benefits are. And I tell them that if they made the right decision, I would be very proud of them as a father. And that you will have proven to me that what we're doing here with you is actually working. But ultimately, Abba, when should I read Quran? Beta, that's up to you. I'm going to tell you it's Asr is in 45 minutes. The rest of it you can figure out. When you want to do it and when you don't want to do it. So you got to be okay with failing because that's in your control. Like you're going to do your best not to fail, obviously. But if you do fail at the end of it, like this lecture, today what we did here, there are some people who appreciate it, and I have no doubt there are a few people here that got triggered tonight by something or another, by something silly. We don't control that. You guys understand that? So to wrap this sort of issue up, the fear of failing, the fear of disappointing others, it's a good thing because it adds some pressure, and pressure is important for growth. You have to have pressure on you, so you do your best. But after you've done your best, this is where the Islamic concept of tawakkul comes into place. Tawakkul, reliance on Allah, is predicated on the point that I just mentioned right now. Understanding what's in your control, what's out of your control. Doing everything that's in your control, and then not obsessing over what is out of your control is the real definition of tawakkul. That's what it means to rely on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So give it your best. Try your best. Do the best you can with ihsan. Do shura, talk to other people. Figure out strategy. Read, study. Don't be sloppy. Muslims aren't sloppy. They're thoughtful. They're thorough. We have a prophetic method of doing things. And after you did everything, if it don't work out, it's okay. Sometimes marriages don't work out. Sometimes businesses don't work out. Sometimes the career you plan doesn't work out. Being okay with that is what we call tawakkul, reliance on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Allah knows best.
So like the only thing I would add to that is for a person that is feeling they're failing Allah, that sense of that you're not doing enough is also very beloved to Allah. Like, you know, when someone tries to get water for their parents and they get up, my father would always give us this example when he would tell us just, you know, make an effort to serve Deen. And we would say, you know, Pochi, we're very young, we're gonna make mistakes. He would say, imagine if a father asked the child to get up and get some water. And the son got up excited, you know, got the cup, went, put some water in. And as he's coming back, extremely excited, he drops the glass and he drops the water. Now, the father, will he be upset?
Yes.
Father, but no, you're right. Father might be a little upset. You know, where my water at, right? But really, the father will be so elated still that my son still listens to me and he tried to get me water. The fact that we're trying to please Allah is all that really matters. The only system in this world where the reward is not contingent upon the results is Allah's system. Every other system in this world, the reward of it is contingent upon the results. If you don't come up with results, you are not rewarded. No one cares how hard you worked. No one cares about how many hours you put in. You go to work and the boss says, where are the tasks at? And you respond by saying, I tried very hard. Say, well, I tried very hard not to fire you. That's good for you, right? The professor would say, hey, how come your essays are not done? You say, I tried very hard. I put in so many hours. Well, too bad. Try harder tomorrow. The only system, and this is actually from Quran and Hadith. And if we had one more lecture, I would speak about this. But these guys will beat me up, right? The only system that is effort-driven, the results are not the primary focus. The effort is the primary focus based on the reward, is the system of Deen. وَالَّذِينَ جَاهَدُوا فِينَا لَنَهْدِيَنَّهُمْ. Whosoever makes a consolidated effort, we will reward them and we will guide them. The Prophet one day said, whosoever recites the Quran, فَهُوَ مَعَ صَفْرَةِ الْكَرَامِ الْبَرَرَةِ. Whoever recites the Quran, they will be given the reward of sitting with the elite angels, or being with the elite angels. And before the Sahabas could even ask, the Prophet said, أَمَنِ تَعْتَعَ فَهُوَ شَاقٌ عَلَيْهِ فَلَهُ أَجْرَانِ. Whosoever struggles, not results. He read less, she read less, but they struggle to do it, they'll get double the reward. Double the reward for reading less, for making more effort. Making more effort. So when we're sitting in America, we're not looking to be rewarded based on simply the act itself. We're looking to be rewarded based on how much effort we're putting in. And it's much, much more difficult to put in that effort in this country than it is some of our countries back home. So the reward can never be the same for two people doing the same thing. This is why the Prophet said, whoever walks to the masjid from further gets more reward because they made more effort. Whoever sits in the masjid for longer gets more reward because they made more effort. The harder the act is for the person, the more reward they can expect from it. What is the most rewarding salat? Tahajjud. Because it's the most difficult salat. Right? So the more difficult it is, the more rewarding it is. It's not about what? Failing. It's about trying hard enough. Everyone that failed is because they tried hard. And we get back up and we try again. Ibn Abbas says one of the most beloved things to Allah is a sadness that a person has because they missed out on an act of goodness. Right? Like they just missed it. They would, you know that idea of FOMO? They have FOMO of Deen. They have missed that opportunity. Even though they didn't do it, they will get rewarded for that act. The next question we're gonna ask Sheikh Asif, Mufti Asif, because he's Mayman. Kamani is Mayman too, though, so it works. But the question is like, how can, like, you know, this idea of balance and Deen and righteousness, these are nice terminologies, but how do I live with that goal in mind when I'm struggling to provide for my family, when there's challenges at work, I'm working long hours, I'm unable to pray, I'm unable to go home and teach my kids Quran, like all these things are happening because of what? I can't make the best income, right? So how do I balance living, you know, a life that is more than just being stable and taking care of my children and family members?
Two Maymans on the stage, Mufti Wahab. Careful. We still gotta go home. For those that know, this question, I would say it's kind of personal to me because being Miman and being a business person, and at the same time doing work of Deen, it becomes very, very difficult. Especially when you have a full work day and then you want to do something for the work of Deen. And personally, I feel like if I don't do anything for the work of Deen, it's like I'm wasting my time. What's money? What's business? I think something that really inspires me, and I think it probably should inspire all of us, is to live a life and a mentality around this certain hadith, which I will mention, is that the Prophet ﷺ says, "Man kanat ad-dunya hammahu, فرق الله عليه أمره وجعل فقره بين عينيه ولم يأته من الدنيا إلا ما كتب له." That if you live your life based on this principle, it will become extremely easy to manage your full day. What does this hadith mean? That if every day of your life, as soon as you wake up, when you open your phone, I have a flip phone, so I have to say open my phone. It's not like his brother. It's not like his brother. He has an old phone, flip phone. So when you wake up in the morning, early morning, you wake up and the first thing you do, you check your bank balance, or you do this, you do that, and you're constantly worried about how much I need to work and what I need to do, what is my task, and your life is constantly revolving around your work, your job. And your mind is all about that. Everything is all about that. And sometimes it's not easy to not have that mindset because we have work pressure, we have bosses above us. It's understandable. But it's important that our principle in life, our mentality should be that everything we do in our daily basis, that the niyyah and the intention shouldn't be about obtaining the world. Don't try to obtain the world. Let the world come to you. Let the world come to you. And I know on a personal level, the more I stress about my own personal business, the more I struggle with my business. I don't know what it is, naturally. And then as soon as I say to myself, you know what, it's okay. We gotta meet these deadlines. Allah will make it happen. It will work out. And I have Mufti Wahab constantly bombarding me. We need to do this for Miftaah. We need to do that. I'm stressed out. He's my boss, so I have to. I'm like stressed out. He calls me Southeast director, but he's got me working in California. He doesn't know where Southeast is still. I don't know how that works, but he's my boss. I can't say anything. So he didn't go to school. Yeah. So sometimes it becomes very stressful. So I say to myself, you know what? Take it a day at a time, step at a time. Allah will make it easy. Just keep going, keep grinding, keep striving, and inshallah, Allah will open ways. That's the goal, inshallah.
If you have another question, we'll do the other question.
So we've had inshallah ta'ala. Jazakallah khair, Sheikh Asif, for a beautiful response coming from Maimin brother. Alhamdulillah, may Allah reward him. But for the discussion of if you're working, you feel like you're missing out, you make the intention that you're working to please your family and please Allah. It's also worship for us. It's also a form of worship. Prophet said in a hadith of Muslim Ahmad ibn Hanbal, that a person who leaves their home لِيَكْسِبَ لِأَهْلِهِ, to earn money for their family, and they passed away, مَاتَ شَهِيدًا, they passed away as shaheed, right? Just because they're what? Earning halal money for their family. You're earning halal money for your family is also a great act of worship. And everyone knows their goals and what they really need and what's not needed.
Okay, here we go, guys. I think a part of this issue is also being real with yourself and being honest with your own circumstances. And Mufti Pochi here, right here, he's a good buddy of mine. He's someone that's, alhamdulillah, he's done a lot of, he's been involved with a lot of different ventures and business and this, that. I remember once he called me and said to me, Sheikh, you know what? I've spent so much time in my business and doing work and providing for my family. I haven't had the same satisfaction in serving the deen. So what I'm thinking about doing is shutting off my businesses and just focusing full time on the deen. Do you remember this conversation? And I told him that would be a horrible decision. That would be a horrible decision. And this is because there's a famous saying in Urdu. Anyone here understand Urdu a little bit? Some of you guys are there, what we doing? They say, "Chalti rozi ko laat nahi marte." You guys heard that before? What that means is that if you have a stable source of income, you don't just cut it off. It's irresponsible. If Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given you something, and I said to him, giving lectures and leading salah, there are a lot of us imams that are doing that. Allah has given you the acumen to do business. This is something that you can do. In the context of the person asking this question, maybe your parents sacrificed 10 years of their life to get you through the career that you're at right now. Just walking away from that would be, to some degree, selfish. What about the sacrifice of mom and dad and all the money they put into our education, the hard work they put into it? Now, accepting that means that you are one step closer to understanding this equation, because the first part of it is coming to terms with your reality. I serve as a director at the Qalam Seminary. And what happens a lot as a part of this position is that students will come and say, "Oh, Sheikh, I'm in year 3 of the program, and I really enjoy attending your classes and the other Mashayikh's classes. But I look at the younger students in the class and they're on campus all day, every day. They're here till 10 p.m. They start 8 a.m. in the morning. And I'm a mother, so I can only take 2 periods. And then when I'm done with my classes, I have to rush home right away. And so I don't know what's happening right now." Do you guys understand the concept, the idea here? Where you're comparing yourself to another. This question is actually based off of that, it seems as if. There's a comparison to another. And what I'm telling these sisters and even brothers half the time, when I'm kind of guiding them through this, is that stop looking at other people. Accept your own reality and understand that in your capacity of being a mother, or in your capacity of being the person who is a sole breadwinner for your family, your reality of worshiping Allah, of building a relationship with Allah, is going to be as amazing, but different. You guys understand that? It's going to be as amazing, but it's going to be different. The way you're going to connect with Allah is going to be a little different. Maybe for you, what we're going to do is that we're going to all mutually agree here that on the way to and from work, no more NPR. You guys understand what I'm saying? No more podcasts, no more Joe Rogan. No. You guys know the Joe Rogan? Anyone on that juice? Yeah. UFOs? You guys believe in that stuff? Yeah, there we go. Ben Shapiro? Oh, who's on that one? If you are, put your hand back down. Who's on Vice these days? Right? You guys know what I'm talking about, okay? Stop all of it. That's precious time. On the way to and from school, to and from class is valuable time. Listen to some Quran real quick. Do a little dhikr. Listen to a podcast. You have to find those moments that you know you can make the best out of yourself. You don't need to do dhikr for 1 hour, 5 minutes, quality though. Before you go to sleep, you lie down in your bed, or you've done your wudu, you brush your teeth, you're ready to go to sleep. Just sit up on your bed for 30 seconds, close your eyes, and do a little salawat. Do istighfar 100 times. Do salawat 100 times. Do dhikr of la ilaha illallah 100 times. The whole thing will take you maybe 5-10 minutes. Lie down, close your eyes, and be happy that Allah give you the tawfiq to do dhikr and then go to sleep. It's those small adjustments. Okay? So if you can't have the big pie, don't be disheartened. Come to terms with your reality. This is what I can do. It's kind of like those of you that are gym buffs, or those of you who are gym rats. You know how it is, right? There are some days in life you can't go to the gym, and then 2 months later, what happens? Go ahead and say it, folks. You can't go. Am I right? No one here goes to the gym? You're trying to get back into the treadmill movement, or trying to get your squats, your deadlift high, and you're working hard on it for 3 months, and then something happens. You got to go home. Mom's not feeling well. Injured my shoulder. Hurt my knee. So you got to sit it out. That's your new reality. You can't keep pressing 2 plates if you got a shoulder tear. You can't do that. You got to stop. Unless you're Kurt Angle. He literally won the Olympics with a broken neck. So unless you're Kurt Angle, everyone else got to stop. You just got to focus on yourself. I think the reason why I commented on this is just to create a little bit of a realization that we have our own context. We have our own realities. If you can't have this, be content with this, because know whether you get this in terms of actions or this in terms of actions, the outcome of spirituality could be the same, because that comes through the effort that Sheikh was talking about earlier and the sincerity and hard work that goes into this. I'll share one quick anecdote, and with this I'll end. There was a lady who called me once, and I think I may have shared this in one of our last conversations, the Hindu lady from Houston. There was this one lady, she called me once, and she said to me, that Sheikh, what's the ruling on praying salah in the toilet? And I was like, ew, like why? So she said that I'm a Hindu convert to Islam, and it's the only safe place in my house I can pray. I've been praying all of my salawat, including tahajjud salah, for 3 years in the toilet. For 3 years in the bathroom, because my family, if they found out, my life would be at risk. I haven't missed tahajjud salah in 3 years, she said. Where is she praying it though? Next to the commode, literally, right there. She's praying it right there. And she said, Sheikh, I long to do sajda in the masjid, but it's not in my reach at this point. So is it permissible for me to pray salah in the toilet? And what's the answer there? And that sajda of yours is more valuable than mine will ever be. The circumstances are different. The ibadah, in terms of its quantitative outward quality, it's different. But we're looking at the qualitative state of the ibadah. You can get a lot done, even in a compromised state, as long as you're sincere and you stick to it. May Allah Azza wa Jalla accept.
Takbir. So we'll just do one more question. A lot of these are things that we're not gonna answer, like someone saying we have to do Miftaah YM collab 100%. We've done these before. Give a round of applause for YM. They're doing amazing work. Give a round of applause, mashallah. Great guys. So always doing a plug-in. I love us MSA people as well, mashallah. So now that someone's asking the age of the shuyukh here, 44, 43, 18. No, and then that's someone asked, what is the scariest moment in boarding school? You don't want to know. You don't, trust me. You will. Then someone asked that, it's very easy for brothers to ask shuyukh for advice, very difficult for sisters to ask for advice. It's an amazing question. It's an important question. And nowadays, I would say that you have access to male scholars as well. Like in gatherings like this, you can ask Mufti Kamani, Mufti Asif your questions as well. And then in a public area, it's completely okay. Or you come to one of the seminaries, you can ask the shuyukh. And there's a lot of female scholars as well that are being born and bred in Qadam and different institutions all across the country. These are all small questions, alhamdulillah, I think we're able to get through. But now the real question, which has been asked, there's 58 questions, guys. It's a lot of questions, right? I would say 48 of them are about the same topic. What's the topic? There you go. There's smart people, right? Someone that's really like pious and like has a good assumption of everyone saying, oh, I'm sure the question is about like the hajj or something. No, this question is about, and it's a very important question as well, and I'll let Mufti comment on this. How do, like, the challenge of youngsters, brothers and sisters getting married in today's time? What is the best practice? What is the best process? Is there a process they should follow? Perhaps you guys can shed some light on this, inshallah. Kamani.
Okay, guys, I'm long-winded. Everyone agrees on that, right? Yes? I cannot start this. I can't start it. I don't know how to be short. I don't know how to be brief. I'm being honest with you. I think this conversation is really loaded and it has a lot of thought that needs to be put into it. There's a lot of consideration here, right? I don't know. I mean, I know where to start. If I were to start with this conversation, my first place would be, I don't know, should I do this? No, you guys are going to be here all night. That's the issue. So I'm going to let you're not down. You're not thinking this through. I'm going to let Mufti Asif and Mufti Abdul Wahab share thoughts on this, because I'm sure they will be more brief and will have more succinct thoughts. One thing. Okay, if there's one thing that I would say, it's this. I'm going to give you one piece of advice on getting married. Make yourself worthy of marriage. You guys hear me? What did I say? Make yourself worthy of marriage. Understand that marriage is you bringing someone else into your life. Don't enter into the relationships while you're riddled with your own mental health issues, with your own physical issues. Don't enter into a relationship where you're torn up in your own financials. I don't think it's appropriate for people, and this is me, and I'm very raw, and you guys hopefully by now have understood that, but it's not ill-intended. This is me being sincere with my own brothers and sisters in this crowd. Don't get married if your dad and mom are going to be paying for your rent. Earn your respect in the family of your in-laws. Show that father-in-law of yours that you have the position to stand on your own feet where you can provide for their daughter. They may hold their breath within and say, taqwa, go ahead and marry my daughter. No, dad's going to be proud of you. You're not going to have confidence in you. You slip up one time after that, he's going to tell his daughter, I told you not to marry this scumbag. Just because he has a good adhan doesn't mean he can provide for the family. Right? Make something out of yourself. Now, I know that means that you can't get married while you're still doing your undergrad. I know that's tough, and I know you're going to say there's a lot of fitna. Just be a little patient. Make something out of yourself. Make yourself worthy of marriage. If you have a goal that I want to get married in 3 years from now, start working on yourself from now to be ready for that. So tomorrow when you go to your mom and dad and say, I want to get married, they can look at you and say, yes, Baba, you're ready for marriage. You've been paying for our groceries. If you're paying for your own parents' groceries, imagine how much respect they have for you. Right? You can do this. I'm going to get married, and dad, I got the hall covered. I got this. You don't need to pay for me anymore. I'm old now. Imagine how much respect that father would have for his own son. But if you're getting married on their dime, living in their roof, while they're going to pay for your honeymoon, and they're going to be paying for your groceries, but they have no say on the person that you marry, that whole thing is a massive fallacy. You guys understand this? No? Everyone's really quiet now. I think we have our biases built into this conversation. I don't think I'm saying the right things. Let me say the right things for you. You can marry whoever you want and get married whenever you want. Go ahead, give yourself a round of applause. That's what I'm trying to say, guys. Build yourself into something. Make yourself worthy of the marriage, right? And if I were to give a second advice, here's my second one. Parents, you're not going to like this one, okay? So you enjoyed the first one. This one's not for you, so plug your ears in. Before you get married, set boundaries with your parents. You guys understand this? What did I say? Before you get married, set healthy boundaries with your parents. Healthy boundaries. This doesn't mean defiance, neither does it mean disrespect. It means you set boundaries. So tomorrow when you do get married, you're able to manage a family under your own sort of guidance and your own thought, where two people who are married now together can work on that relationship. You can make mutual decisions without being constantly under pressure. And you've communicated that with your parents. Because tomorrow after marriage, if you try to set boundaries with them by saying that, Mom, you can't enter into my closet anymore. Or, Mom, I'm not going to explain every dime in my account. Or whatever it is. If you try to set boundaries after marriage, they will blame the wife for turning or inciting their child against them. Does that make sense? And she doesn't deserve that. What did she do wrong? What's her fault here? Her fault is that she married someone who never had boundaries, who didn't know how. If you want to have a long relationship with your parents and you want to serve them and kiss their feet until they're 90, the most effective way to do that is set boundaries with them. Because if you know where your boundary is and they know where theirs is, and you have love after that, it has longevity that follows. Otherwise, without boundaries, the relationships that exist are usually crumbling under a tremendous amount of pressure, and they have a very short expiry date. So those are the two things that I would suggest on this right here. I'm going to pass it over to Shiyuf to share their thoughts.
Yeah, it's tough. I could say one thing. I know Miftaah has a matrimonial service, so round of applause to Sheikh Wahab. No one knows about it. It's in Detroit, so if you want to find someone, please go there. Study for 1 year, and inshallah you'll find someone. But nevertheless, again, marriage is a hot topic. It's a very difficult thing. But one thing I'll say is that oftentimes being a teenager, we have that mentality of talking to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 people at once. Stay away from that. It will ruin you as a person. Men do it, guys do it, girls do it. And their mindset is that, oh, I'm going to go through the roster. we call it roster nowadays. The biodata. And I'll go through see the thing is they don't go through the biodata. They actually talk to them extensively. So please stick to one person at a time. And if that person is not the right person for you, move on. Don't linger with that person. Don't waste that person's time. Don't give them false hope. A lot of times we give people false hope just to keep them on the side, as a side person. If it doesn't work out with this, then I'll go back to this person. No, it happens. It's true. It happens. And stay away from that kind of mentality, that culture, because for believers and Muslims, this is not the right way to do it. Stick to one person at a time, and inshallah, Allah will bless you.
Allah reward the mashayikh for the amazing advice. I'm going to wrap this up quickly for the brothers and sisters, for both of you, for both of us. I know Atlanta is getting a lot of other people here too, but so far, our brothers and sisters. Makes sense, right? But brothers and sisters, only advice I would have, because we're young. I got married a few years ago only. I would say have realistic expectations. Realistic expectations for what who a spouse is, right? I know we all want that Baru, and you all want that Dave. Stop watching Bollywood movies. Stop watching Bollywood movies. There's no such thing as Veer Zara in real life, right? So don't ask me how I know. I saw a lot of trailers when I was young, right? But my point is, the realistic expectations it makes it easier to get married at every level. Right, every level. Like if you have realistic expectations for who the person is, who the family is, and every person that goes into a marriage saying that I won't compromise, most probably will never get married, because you have to have realistic expectations. The person getting married to you is also compromising something, so you also have to compromise something. The person getting married to you is probably compromising he or she moving away from their parents, and you're compromising. Perhaps you're not marrying a doctor or engineer, whatever it may be. But my little brother once told me, they said, have like the three things that, this is actually a rule. You can't have more than 3 main things in your list, right? 3 top things. 3 non-compromisable items. Like these 3 things I will not compromise on. And 3 middle tier, I prefer not to compromise on them. If I have to, I will. Right? And the last 3, which is, I can compromise on these 3 things. So 3, 3, 3. You can write them down. You can have it in front of you. You can have it on your phone. And whenever you're thinking about getting married to someone, that's right there. And last but not the least, don't linger. Those that linger make it difficult for everyone. Be quick with it, right? If it's yes, if it's no, we move forward and Allah will find someone for us. الطيبات للطيبين والطيبون للطيبات. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, good people will find good people. الخبيثات للخبيثين. And bad people will find bad people. Right? So if we fix our relationship with Allah, and we're sincere in our pursuit, Allah will find someone good for us, inshallah ta'ala. May Allah reward you all, may Allah bless you all for staying. We finished at 10 p.m. That was the time that we had set. For everyone that's here, if you haven't heard about Miftaah or even Qalam, take your time out, look at what we're doing. Inshallah, someone asked when are we coming back? Inshallah, we'll be back in a few months. Inshallah, with most probably some other mashayikh. We'll always love Atlanta. We'll keep coming back to Atlanta. Please come visit us. In Michigan, we have a Seerah intensive between December 23rd and December 29th. If any of you are feeling too warm in Atlanta, come to Michigan, inshallah. And come with your families, you'll have a blast, inshallah. And if you have social media where you get a lot of sins anyways, expiate that by following Miftaah and Qalam, inshallah. Jazakallah khair, everyone, inshallah. What is it?